Hey guys, welcome back to the Chain Reaction Podcast. I'm Tanner alongside Daniel here.
Yes.
And this is episode 6 of the Chain Reaction Podcast, where we talk about disc golf news and new disc golf products. Right now, we're basically talking about the disc golf news because this is probably the best news or the biggest news that we've had in disc golf in a long time. People are saying this is the craziest world we've ever seen, the greatest disc golf shot ever thrown. A lot of great moments happen this weekend, so we're going to talk about them today. If you guys haven't watched coverage yet, if you haven't watched Jomez, which should have been out a couple hours before us talking about this, if you haven't watched the live coverage, I'm sorry, we're going to talk about it. So if you don't want to have spoilers, which I don't know how you missed it, turn this off because we're going to be talking about the biggest moments in disc golf history probably right now. So
agreed.
Let's start off with the greatest shot in history. James Conrad down the stretch has to throw in to tie McBeast from 250 feet out. Jomez clocked it at 252 when I listened to the coverage. The Disc Golf Network clocked it at 247. We'll just call it 250.
Whatever.
He grabs Greenie, the new Greenie, as everybody's kind of calling it. I saw a meme that was like green plus yellow or blue plus yellow equals green, because that's what his new disc is. It's blue rim with a yellow flight plate. And
was the
I don't know. It was the MV, yeah. And if James is going to make that shot, you know he's going to throw a putter, right? 250 feet, like
exactly. That's his bread and butter. I mean, he's always throwing putters as it is. But I think like when you're watching it off the tee, it was just insane. You know, McBeast goes up, throws his first shot, so close to going OB, and sits down, and then he really puts the pressure on James. So James throws just dead straight into a tree. Thankfully, it just stopped right before OB. Not happy. So you're like, oh, McBeast got this in the bag. Ends up throwing again, just kind of getting his layup shot. McBeast is just like, all right, I wouldn't really say he's letting off the gas pedal, but he's definitely feeling a little like, okay, this has kind of got in the bag. The chances of somebody throwing in from 250 feet, most unlikely, especially with the pressure and everybody being there. I can only imagine how much pressure that is. So he ends up chucking it 250 feet and just smashes it in. Crowd erupts. I mean, you just have to give it to him. I mean, that is coming more clutch than I could ever say I've ever seen in disc golf as anybody. I mean, we're saying it's the best shot in disc golf history so far.
Yeah, and so the craziest thing is, so James hits the tree off the tee, barely stays in bounds, and then in my head after watching it, I'm like, okay, well, James could still probably throw it into the circle one and get a birdie off this. But then he goes up to the lie, and he's literally like back foot's almost in the water. And we know that James needs a run up. And
right.
So I'm looking at him standing on the edge of the water, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, there's no way he can get to the green from here with the standstill.
Exactly.
It's like a big turnover. I think you have to get around the corner. There's a bunch of trees to miss. So I kind of felt, yeah, he took his medicine. I kind of felt deflated. I was like, man, I thought this was going to be more, dramatic. Paul McBeast throws basically the perfect drive. It's a little sketchy because it was close to the edge. But then all Paul has to do is do a layup shot in the middle, lay up to the basket, tap in his world championship. And that's the smart play. Like, I don't think anybody is faulting Paul for not going to the green.
No. Yeah.
Because if he throws OB, then he might makes it into a playoff anyway. And so James does his layup. He takes his medicine, like you said. And I don't know where you were. I was in a Sonic drive-through. We went to the lake yesterday because it was 105 degrees in Roseburg, Oregon. And so we were in the Sonic drive-through coming on the way back, and me and my buddy Bryce had the Disc Golf Network on my phone, and my buddy Bryce is like, so is he going to go for it? And in my head, I'm like, I look at the score and I'm like, if he goes for it and goes out of bounds, he can still make the putt and get second. So it's not like he's going to drop a ton of positions. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, as I'm explaining it to him, I'm like, he has to go for it. I mean, he's going to run it.
What else is he going to be?
Yeah. What else is he going to do? He's one of the best putter throwers in the world. I feel like we always see highlights of James Conrad throwing in putters, or, the 250 to 300 range. I feel like James is hitting basket 50% of the time.
16, third round, got an ace.
He got an ace, yeah. So as he throws it, I'm like, yeah, he has to throw this in right now. And as he throws it out of his hand, I mean, we're seeing the catch cam footage, but I'm just like, dude, that has a chance to go in as it's in the middle of the air. And then
everybody in the crowd saying the same thing. Get in there, go in.
Yeah. And it just sinks in the right side basket, not a chance of like chaining out, like the
insane.
Perfect way to land
to have that emotion of the crowd, like literally, I mean, It's just so funny. The flaggers are going crazy. Everyone, I mean, I'm sure you've seen the meme of Calvin where it's like happy, sad, blah blah blah. He goes all these motions, and it's just his face at the end. It's like James throwing in from 250 feet. It's just what a great feeling, man. What a great feeling. I mean,
It's insane. And like not only the greatest shot in disc golf, because I don't think there's any other shot I can even think of besides,
right.
I don't know,
I just would say
Wysocki
a playoff
throwing in
with
at more.
Wysocki and Macbeth. I think back at Portland Open and Wysocki making this insane huge. I mean, it was just some of those are the only things you can really compare it to. But for this to like, yeah, I'm with you. I don't think anything's as comparable right now that I can remember.
Yeah, and I for people that aren't into disc golf, which it's frustrating the way that this was like talked about, especially on the Scott Van Pelt show, which I kind of got in a Twitter beef with because I told him that he should
Saw
respect
that.
the sport a little bit more. If you guys want to see that, find me on Twitter. I only
Agreed.
have like 2 tweets, but he did respond, which was nice. I basically said like you need to respect this moment a little bit more. He's talking about people in the crowd being wasted, and in my mind, I'm like, this is the most clutch shot ever. Like in other sports, like Jordan hitting the three, and I don't want to relate it to like Michael Jordan and like how epic that shot is, but like in context, when you're on this is how I think about it. When you're on a field with either basketball or football or baseball, you have like, yes, a lot more people in the crowd than the 1,400 plus people that were at
Mhm.
the Disc Golf World Championships. But as with disc golf being an individual sport the way it is, and it's only one person at a time, it's not an individual sport like wrestling or something where it's you against somebody else. It's literally you against the course. And so
And
when James is making
well,
that throw, 1,400 plus people are just waiting for him to throw. So it's like there's way more pressure. Like obviously when like say Jordan makes the crazy shot to win in whatever championship that was, they're probably all watching Jordan, but there's also, 10 other people on the court. And there's people on the bench and like a lot of people
definitely.
contributed to that. For James to throw that in with all those people watching from 250 feet away just to make it a tie for the world championships, and he does it. Like I don't think that people that don't watch disc golf understand like
How amazing that
the
is.
magnitude of that throw.
Oh, dude, it's undeniably. I was trying to like my friend Danielle, who I was with at the bar, like she doesn't get it. Like I'm like trying to explain it to her. I'm like, oh my god, this was amazing. Like she's like, well, what's happening? What does that mean? And I was like, well, there's a playoff. She's like, well, what's going on then? I was like, it was just, it's. I'm speechless still talking about it because it's just so amazing, dude.
It's so crazy. And I was talking to my brother about it because I got told him that I got in a Twitter beef with Scott Van Pelt, and he thought it was pretty funny because he follows ESPN a lot more than I do. And I tried to explain the moment to him, and I basically tried to equate it to like Tiger Woods chipping in from like 150 yards out to make a tie for the Masters or whatever the biggest golf tournament is,
Good analogy.
and pushing a playoff for the greatest against the greatest player ever, technically like Paul Macbeth. And then
Lifetime.
I had
Yeah.
to like backtrack. I was like, oh, it's not really Tiger Woods making a chip in. It's like Bubba Watson or somebody. I don't even follow golf a whole lot, but it's somebody else that's competing
Wouldn't
with
be
the
as on
best.
par. Exactly. Exactly.
Because Paul Macbeth, 5-time world champ, like people, arguably the greatest of our generation, possibly the greatest ever. People are going to say Climo with more world championships, but with the way that disc golf has grown and like the level of like
Competitive.
competition,
Mhm.
I feel like regardless of how many world championships Paul Macbeth ends up having in his career, I think he's going to be in the talk for the GOAT. Um,
Right. I completely agree with you.
so like James Conrad, I mean, he's competing against the GOAT of our generation, possibly the GOAT of all time. And then he does that, pushes to a playoff. What did you think
Mhm.
going into hole 16 after the hole he shot
Are you talking about on the playoff or
on the playoff? Like
on the
what did you
playoff?
think
Yeah,
was
yeah.
going to
So
happen?
you know, I really thought it was going to go longer. I mean, with James coming out, I mean, how much pressure you put on Macbeth when you park it? I mean, it's like he's parked that pretty much ever since the. I mean, he was had that shot in his bag in clutch every round. Pretty much, he played it. And the pressure I'm sure Macbeth had. But Nate Doss had a really good point. They said like he's going to need to get this disc down quick, and it's going to need to sit. I mean, with James just throwing it's going to hit and sit when he threw the he threw the NB, or was it the entropy this time, or what did he throw for
It was
the
it was a more overstable disc. It wasn't greeny. It was a gray greeny
entropy?
disc.
Was it an entropy or no?
If an entropy is an overstable disc, I think that's what it is.
It
It's a
entropy
putter.
is it's like kind of like the I would say like a zone. I would kind of compare it to a zone. But I'm not sure if that's what he threw. Regardless, if he's throwing a putter, it's going to sit a lot quicker than it's going to be. I mean, Macbeth throwing I think it was a Raptor he threw. And yeah, I just got it. It was just really unfortunate. It hit and got a flip and then right into the water. And it's pretty much that was the end of the show. Like, there's nothing you can really do to come back from that, James. And it was funny because Ian's like, "Well, hopefully, he makes that putt." And I was like, "There's no way he's not going to make that putt. It's 10 feet away." And James being as good as he is, it's just, it was the book closed, case shut kind of thing. So I after he parked it, I think it was I expected to go a little bit longer, but I mean, kudos to James all the more, and I give it to him, man. What a win! What a win!
So I'm looking at the Jomez coverage because I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but I really appreciate what Jomez is doing. They've been putting the disc that people are throwing on screen. Have you noticed
Mhm.
that?
They
Uh,
upped it a lot. I think their production value for the Worlds, like, I would say it's even better than Disc Golf Pro Network. I mean, I give it to Jomez. Like, that is elite filming. Like, I think with all the commentary they do, and then now they're always filming their reactions before the other pro throws and stuff like that, and like giving all the speed disc and even the distance to that they threw, and then to the pin when they're throwing. I mean, all that is like great information that I really appreciate. So I'm super ecstatic that they started doing that.
I agree with you. And they put the weight in the, I don't know, it's really cool. Because Ian Anderson, I feel like, has done a really good job of trying to inform the viewing audience what disc people are throwing. But when with Jomez just putting it on as a graphic, it doesn't really take away from the commentary, because I know some people kind of get annoyed of like, I don't really care if you throw in, a destroyer every hole. Like, I just want to watch them talk about the shots. But I'm looking at it, and James threw an MVP plasma entropy. So that's probably going to be the hottest selling disc for the rest of the year. The thing that I thought was interesting is, and I think they mentioned it on coverage, is I believe James aced it, obviously, in the earlier rounds. He aced hole 16. I heard that in another round, he almost aced it. He was like a foot
I think the
off or
top of the
something.
basket, it was insane. I saw that one too. I can't remember what hole it was, but threw it in and almost again, and just like inches off of getting. Or no, sorry, that was not James. I mean, think it was James, but I'm also thinking of what I'm thinking of is, why can't I think of her name? Who else?
Sarah Hokum.
Sarah Holcomb. Sorry, yeah. I was like, why can't I think of her name? She almost got her second ace. She dinked the top of the basket. She came in
Oh
after
wow.
yeah. So she got her almost second ace too. It was top of the band, and that would have been two for her. So it was crazy to see she aced 18 as well. So this is MVP's huge moment, I would believe, for um,
Yeah.
their business.
MVP had some really good moments in this world, but James he aces it, almost aces hole 16, and then he parks it. So James is like one of the only players that was throwing the backhand right route, like Stahlheiser,
Mhm.
around the tree, which some people thought was not as safe of a play because you could hit the tree and go out. Um, when they went to 16, I was with my buddy Bryce, and I was saying, I was like, dude, I got a bad feeling Paul's going to throw a B on this hole. And I look back at the rounds before he threw, and I was like, oh, he's got birdies on this every single round. Maybe he's not going to throw a B. Maybe he's got this shot dialed.
Was he
But
throwing the
it's
same disc every round?
that I don't know. He did throw a Raptor
I know he
for
threw the
his.
Raptor on the playoff, but I didn't see what else he really threw. Did you see Ezra's near ace on 16?
Yeah, that one was pretty rough, and then it rolled
That was.
OB.
Mhm.
But when he threw the forehand, I don't know if you noticed this, but I was like trying to figure out like what the conditions were on the course, and I just saw the feather banners like blowing a tailwind, it looked like, off the tee. And with James's shot coming in, like everybody says, when it hits, it's going to land because it's like a Stahlheiser. There's not a lot of motion on it. Like with a Stahlheiser, the disc is coming in like right to left instead of straight. So
Good
like
point.
the the margin for error is less because the disc is going left and right, not forward at that point. And then when I saw Paul throwing a wide rim forehand coming off the right side, on the forehand side, I don't know. I just had a bad feeling. Like, I haven't really seen forehand really stick unless you're throwing a big stall like zone or something like I
Mhm.
think Ezra threw. So I don't know. I called that he was going to throw a B, which I didn't want to see. I wish it would have gone for a huge playoff like the World Championships with Ricky and Paul. But um, yeah, that was James's moment, man. The craziest ending to the World Championships, to most tournaments. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on this, but I think the Utah Open was a pretty. I mean, I was kind of mad that they did the Utah Open before, like the week before, because it kind of didn't really set up with the World Championships as much as I think it could have. But I think it over delivered. Like the World
Hmm.
Championships was way over delivered. I think the courses were pretty interesting to watch. I mean, ball golf courses aren't the most interesting, and there's a lot of controversy about the PDGA spray painting the hazard lines after the first round, and there's like a ton of controversy with like Brody Smith, spending $1,000 to reserve the
Hmm.
driving range, and the president of the board of directors from the PDGA was on um, that
On their own
podcast or whatever
podcast.
with Rolf Magazine, and didn't really come off very professional in my opinion.
Yeah, he didn't have put a good name out for the PDGA, that's for sure.
There was just like a lot of chatter going on about this world, and then James just comes in and it's just like, hey, chill dudes, like I'm just going to give you the greatest moment in history.
Let's just
And
wipe it all away, and we're only gonna remember that.
yeah,
Um,
so
yeah, it was crazy. I think another shout out, I think we're talking about goes to Nate Sexton for him taking, I would say, a whole year off to be such a good guy for a family stand-up man and just be dad, and then come back and place third at Worlds. Like, I mean, give it to him, man. That's an elite player right there.
not only like I think he's 36, he's a little older. He's
Hmm.
daddy Nate now, and he won he won the US championships a couple years
Yeah,
ago, so we know he's elite. We know he's one of the best players to play. Uh, and then, like you said, to be leading the tournament for the middle of the worlds, I want to say like round 3 and 4. I think he was either leading or,
he was. Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
and then to come out with the third place after, like you said, taking about a year and a half off with COVID, and then his wife and daughter and everything going on in I want to say Tacoma, to come out and still be competitive. And not only that, but also do his commentary duties with Jomez. Like, I know those guys are waking up early, filming the commentary after Jomez has like edited the round. They come in the morning, I want to say, and do the commentary. So he's doing more than the average pro at the biggest event, and then he still gets third. So yeah, he's kind of a local guy. He's from Corvallis originally, I want to say, and now he's
yeah. Hmm.
in Washington. So really cool to see him shine on the biggest stage. I think everybody
Oh,
loves Nate, and that was definitely really cool to see. Um,
he had a lot of people I knew rooting for him.
yeah,
I mean, as was I, but I think we made our predictions. I still had Macbeth as my who I expected, and I mean him coming into I would say just coming in such clutch and just having one stroke advantage over everybody else coming into the final round. He just knows how to turn it on, man, and that's what you got to give it to Macbeth, and that's why I think we both state that he is the GOAT. And I mean, he was, I think in a small interview, he was stating too that like, with everybody new coming in and like him still proving himself and still being an elite and being like the 1-2 beat, you got to give it to him because so many more people are coming into the sport at such younger ages, and their skill sets are just like so much more defined than his at that age. But for him still to be leading and being, that person to beat and always the, 5-time world champ. And I think it also makes me laugh. I mean, not laugh, but it's crazy that him and Paige are both up for their sixth world time championship, and everything's kind of going in their favor until the last hole. And they both played out differently. Paige, kind of it didn't work out to her favor. She went and got a double bogey, and then it worked out for her. But Macbeth did everything right. He did. You couldn't fault him. So. Um, but we can
yeah.
jump on.
I mean,
Do we talk about women's yet? We can say something about that
we can
too.
talk about women's. Yeah, I mean, just to kind of finish up with like Paul, I feel like in the last 2 rounds of Worlds, he turned into McBeast again. He was making all
Mhm.
these putts that he wasn't making before. I'm looking at his stats right now because I wanted to kind of see if that was anything. But for the final round, it looked like he was putting at 86% from Circle 1X. And I thought that was kind of a low number because James is at 88. But Paul was 67 from Circle 2. That's like a
Oh
huge
wow!
number.
No, that's huge. What was his previous rounds?
Um,
We'll just say it's
at
not
the
60.
At the fort or the round before, he had 0 circle 2 putting, but 92 circle 1X. At Mulligan's, the third round, he had 70% putting from circle 1 and 13% from circle 2.
Oh wow, yeah. Oh, he knows how
So
to turn it on, man. Like I said,
he
he's
knows how to
just,
turn it on, man.
and that's one thing I think that sets you apart from everybody. It's like sometimes you can get like your emotions get the best of you, but like he's able to always. I mean, you always see him coming back in clutch. It's like he may have a terrible round, but then there's always like I don't know. He's just an immaculate player, man. You got to take something. You got to take a page out of his book if you can.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not sure if you saw his Facebook post or Instagram, whatever it
I
was. He
did.
basically just said like, congrats, James, you threw the greatest shot in
Well,
disc golf history.
it hurts to say take second, but like all the appreciation and love goes out to you, kind of thing. So I give it to him. I mean, it's hard to take second. I mean, with him being such a competitive nature, and nobody wants to take second, but credit's due. So, and I think he definitely gave it. And like we said, everything it goes to James, man. I mean, it's just that was. I was screaming. I mean, everybody's looking at me at the bar. I was just like, I don't care. I'm just super ecstatic and super happy for this moment. And I wasn't the only one. And my phone blew up. Everyone's texting me. Did you see? Did you see? I was like, yeah, I was right there
Yeah,
with you
we were screaming in the car on the drive-through. It was pretty funny.
That was
Uh,
crazy. Next
so
time we'll have to do a recording party. We'll record
like,
Worlds next time and
yeah, like
watch it.
Foundation Disc Golf did. I saw
Mhm.
that they did a recording party.
Oh,
That was
did
a good
they? I
idea.
missed that. Oh, that is a good idea. Reaction video.
Which was kind of funny because I'm pretty sure Paul McBeth owns Foundation Disc Golf or part of it, and to see them freaking out with James throwing that in, I think kind of tells you how great disc golf is, because everybody is just wanting to see good golf, and it's not like, I don't know. They must have felt for Paul not getting his sixth world title, but to see the greatest shot ever, and for Paul to like it, for Paul losing the world championships, the only way you could beat him, in the grand scheme of things, is to throw the greatest shot in disc golf history. You know what I mean? Like, that kind of
Yeah,
shows you how
sure.
great Paul is. So,
Mhm.
um, I was just telling you that before we got on this podcast, I was stoked about the FPO coverage before the MPO started. Like, I thought the FPO battle was just as great.
Oh, it was. Yeah, I was watching it all morning too. Just I didn't actually watch the footage of it, but I was watching it on UDisc. I was busy throughout work, but I was like, it was just another, upsetting victory for Paige. But but it was still one of those things you didn't expect. I mean, I was coming down, I was watching it, and it was like, she's coming down with a two-stroke lead. Yeah, and it was just I give it to Kat. It was good, and Lisa, she was right there with him too.
Yeah. So Lisa was kind of like this little dark horse. She was sitting a couple strokes back most of the time, and Paige and Katrina were kind of flip flopping scores the whole round. And uh, Paige had a couple. I mean, I don't want to go through the whole entire round because I can't remember exactly, but I remember seeing Katrina threw OB on one of the holes, and Paige just had like this great drive, just had to go through a triple Mando, and she could have got a birdie or a par, would have got a stroke on Cat. And then Paige throws a really bad shot or approach shot, misses a triple Mando, has to go to a drop zone, and they end up pushing on the hole. And then Lisa Fakis kind of slides in. She's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get a par," or I think it was a par. I think it was hole 10, if I had to guess.
Mhm.
And she just taps in a par, gets a stroke on both of them, and then she's like in the mix. She's a couple strokes back, and so they go to. I feel like the FPO storyline kind of starts at 16 as far as like when the the dramatics happened. And off the tee, Katrina throws OB, Paige throws OB, Lisa parks it. So I think Lisa was a couple strokes out of the lead. I want to say she was 2 or 3 strokes back at that point. And so for her to park it within like 20 feet, pretty
Mhm.
much parking it, um, all she has to do is get a birdie, and she's most likely getting 2 strokes on both Cat and Paige. Paige does Paige things. She did this twice in a row at the fort. She drills the drop zone putt, which I haven't seen a whole lot of men do, and she's done it
Mhm.
twice in 2 consecutive rounds. It's like a 70-foot putt. So she clutches
That's when
up.
I felt like she closed the door right there when she did that. I was like, "Wow." I mean, never sell and until that disc goes in on 18 for that last shot, that's when you can, finally take a deep breath of relaxation and be like, "Okay, I got this." But it just shows you. I mean, you never know. You never know.
You never know. Yeah. So Paige saves the par. I'm like, oh man, well, this is just Paige. This is Paige thing. She's the go to women's. She's kind of like the same mentality as Paul. Like, she's just gonna step up in these big moments. She makes another 70-footer. She's not, letting anybody get close to her. Katrina, pretty much, it's a tough putt. She misses the putt. She taps in a bogey. And then I'm looking at Lisa, and I'm like, hey, Lisa just has to tap this in. She gets a stroke on Paige. She's tied with Cat now, I want to say. Could be off by a stroke on that. And then Lisa 3 putts. She misses her birdie. She misses her comeback. So what's that? And then she misses that putt, and then she taps in a 5. And she was the only one that made the circle. So that's where Lisa
And it
kind
could
of
be
fell out of
pressure. I
contention.
think it comes down. Maybe she was just had so much pressure on it that she knew, like what you were saying, that she would have had I mean, it's yeah, it's funny what happens sometimes when you're right there and like I was playing today and I was, there's a few shots that I was just 20 feet away and I was like, all right, here's the bird. I got this. I practice shot all the time. And sometimes when I was playing for tags and we had some money on the thing, but it's just those little things. I mean, it's nothing big for me, but like I can only imagine the pressure she's got. That's a world championship and like, so
Her
much more
first
goes
one
with it. Yeah, totally. So like,
going against a
there's a lot
five-time
that
world
goes.
champ. Yeah,
Exactly, and like you're saying, these are the two. Paul and Paige are like the people to beat. That they've proven themselves time and time again to show they are the elite players. And um, yeah, there's a lot that goes to that, I'm sure, but it's just crazy, man.
yeah. And then going into hole 17, I want to say Katrina and Paige were tied at that point. Going into 17, uh, Paige takes a bogey, Kat gets a birdie, so she's or a par. So Kat's on the tee box for 18, leading by a stroke. I want to say, right? Am I getting this
No,
right?
I believe it's the other way around. So she was 10, and I think Paige bogeyed, so then Paige was 11. So that was like 10 and 11 going into the last hole, and then Paige double bogeyed, and then it dropped her to 9, and she just laid up for her par.
Okay, so yeah, so but Kat had the box going into 17.
Did she have the box?
Yeah,
Because I think, yeah, because Paige bogeyed, and then she had the box going into it, but she was still a stroke behind, right?
let me let me get the tee box. So yep, you're right. So going into the last hole, Katrina had the box. She was 10 down. Pierce was 11 down. Uh, Paige on hole 18 has not done great during the tournament. I believe she took a double bogey both of the previous rounds at the fort, and Kat has pretty much played it perfectly. I think she's parred most rounds, but Katrina throws her drive off the tee, basically lands it in the perfect position, doesn't hit anything off the tee. Paige goes up, she throws it pretty much in the same exact position that she wants to be, and she's leading by a stroke. So she does what Paul does. She lays up. She, does a little jump putt to put it in the middle of the fairway. And Katrina trying to put the pressure on, trying to do what James Conrad did, but before James Conrad did, she has to throw this crazy Anheuser distance driver shot for the FPO. It's like 300 plus feet away.
Hmm.
And she's done it in the previous rounds. And she lands it in the circle barely. The disc is half on the out of bounds line, half on the inbound lines at like 30 feet. So she put the pressure on Paige to like put her upshot close. After she did the layup, like Paige has to get her upshot close in order to make the putt. And some people are going to blame the baby that cried. Did you hear about that?
I did hear about that, but and
So
I
like
wasn't sure. I read about that, like, yeah, baby cried out right before her throw, and I heard about that, but
it
I
was like
didn't
right
hear
when she
that.
threw. You
Oh,
definitely
really?
razzed her, I would assume. So Paige, she has this like I don't know what was like a 200-foot upshot,
Hmm.
and it's like a straight line. Paige is great at throwing putters in straight lines. I think that's what she's known for. And she early releases it. It looks like she throws OB. It doesn't go far enough to get into the wider circle of the putting green.
Hmm.
So now Paige is OB. She's putting for par to tie, or she's putting for
I believe this
bogey.
is bogey.
She's
Hmm.
putting for bogey to tie Paige to go, or to tie Katrina to go into
Cat,
a
yeah,
playoff.
correct.
And she has like a 70-foot putt that she hits the top of the band with, misses it, and that
Which
gives
pushes it to double, and
Katrina.
then Cat's just like, I'm gonna lay up and play really smart. Why do I need to even run that? And then
Yeah,
tapped
Kat's
it
just
in.
like, okay, I just got to tap. I just got to put this under the basket and tap
Smart
in for
call.
my second world
Yeah,
championship.
exactly.
Which, to talk about pressure, uh, not only like so, Paige and Paul, both five-time world champs, both Jason six. That was kind of the storyline going into the last round. They both have pressure to kind of maintain their GOAT status, right? But Paige also has this added pressure of a documentary crew following her everywhere.
Good point. We talked about
So
that.
she has this like documentary that's like proving to the world that she's the most dominant female athlete in almost all of sports. She's been in Sports Illustrated articles. She has been very vocal about it in the PDGA press conferences about how she's the greatest girl ever. Like people
Player
need
of
to start
sport. Yeah.
respecting her. And Katrina says, "Hold my ribeye. I'm gonna, snatch this from you." And
Totally.
I'm happy for Katrina. Since I started watching
Yeah.
disc golf, Katrina kind of seemed like the heel. Like when I first started, people were kind of commenting that she was maybe a little bit like, for lack of a better word, bitchy. She kind of was in people's business, it seemed like, and she just didn't have a good rap. She was a great player, but to me, I just felt like she didn't really have like a great audience of people that really wanted to follow her. She was kind of like the Nico of the FPO when I first started, as far as like how people viewed her. But in the last like 2 or 3 years, I've seen that she's made like a very conscious effort to like change that view of herself in the public. She's not talking about anybody else. She's just putting her head down and working. She's she basically has been putting a lot of effort into herself, and I think if you're following disc golf, I think people can notice that she was off social media for a long time because she was getting a lot of hate from people. And to see her like come back
Yeah.
after like putting all that work into herself and proving to herself that she can compete with the best, and she did it, and her putting's getting better. A lot of people dog on her for her putting, and
Mhm.
I don't know, it was great to see her like come through, because you can tell that she puts a lot of work into it, and she has like basically just been like putting her head down and just like putting blinders onto everything else in the world. And
Which
I
is what you
guess,
need to do. I mean, it's honestly it's kinda shutting everything because it's probably like if you are getting a lot of flack on social media and all this other stuff, it probably plants a seed in your head where you're getting more stressed about certain things, and sometimes you just gotta take a step back and, like, do what's best for you. I mean, I met her at Portland Open when I was volunteering, and she was super sweet. Her and, Austin were just super nice. They were with Ricky, and they were all just like, "Thank you guys so much for what you're doing." And she was like, I could never say a bad word about her because she was super sweet. So I was like, I really appreciated her time and what she had to say, and she was just very thankful for what we are doing. And I, like I said, I didn't mean to pick favorites, but I was really hoping Kat was going to win. I mean, it was like, I just think, yeah. I mean, that would be her second world title.
yep.
So
So yeah, congrats to her. It was a great finish, and I mean, like I was saying, like I was following the FPO division just as hot as the men's division, and I thought that was a crazy finish. Like Paige has basically just has to walk it in, like exactly what Paul did, which is funny how both Discraft 5-time world champs basically
that's
had the same
what I
fate on
was
hole
saying.
18. It was
It
crazy. So
really is.
yeah, congrats to Kat, 2-time world champ. uh, Kevin or James Conrad, world champion. I want to say I was
James.
listening to Jomez, and they were saying that there's only 5 people. I want to say this is right. 5 people that have won the U.S. championship and the world championship, and now James Conrad's one of them. So
That's all.
pretty sure he's going to go in the Hall of Fame when he's done playing. Hopefully, he gets a couple more titles under his belt. Uh, I want to get some MVP disc now. I'm not sure about you, but
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, it was like I'm with you 100%. Yeah, I've been throwing my envy a lot more now, so it's been good. Yeah, I was talking to some people like I'm switching my whole bag up to MVP. I'm sure it was a joke, but it's just it's great, man, and I think it's going to be a huge push for MVP discs. And like you're saying, with both of them, both getting aces, the MVP teammates, Sarah Hokum and him, both getting aces, and him playing such a well game, getting a world championship, and everything that goes with that. It's going to be a huge bump for MVP and everything that goes with that. So it's really cool.
yeah, I think the winners of the world championship are the viewers, because it was like the craziest storylines for both divisions that you could think of. The holy shot or whatever you want to call it with James, just like insane. I think everybody that watches it is still like in disbelief that it happened, because it was
Right.
like just one of those things. It's like the only way he could, still come back. It's like one of those moments in sports where it's like there's still a chance. It's very small, but we're still going to watch because it could happen. And then it does. It's just like,
Right.
it's one of those crazy moments. But then, like, yeah, like we're saying, as far as like which company, as far as manufacturers or like presenting sponsors of these players won, I gotta say MVP had the most like memorable moments of the 2021 World Championships. Probably the biggest World Championships ever in terms of like viewership, because we had the pandemic. Like disc golf blew up. We have all these new eyes on the sport and new players. I know I have a bunch of buddies that started during the pandemic, and this is their first time watching Worlds, and they've seen
Very
Sarah
impressive.
Hokum ace 18 at Mulligan's, MVP, their main women's player. And then you see James Conrad ace hits hole 16, throwing MVP, and then you see the greatest moment in sports with James throwing MVP. So
Okay.
James
Well,
or
yeah,
MVP
thanks so
got
much for them.
Yeah, MVP got Sports Center with Sarah Hokum one day. They got #1 Sports Center with James Conrad.
Mhm.
Yeah, MVP's stock probably just went way up. If they have stock, I know we've talked about this a little bit. We need to be investing.
Yeah, you need to invest in MVP if they're out there.
So
But
yeah,
no,
those are
so it's a very exciting weekend. A lot of emotions, a lot of roller coaster, and you got to give it to a lot of the contenders. I mean, Emerson Keith was up there, and it's just you have so many people to be like, give a shout out to because everyone played so well, and I think it definitely was just you really had no, you don't know who was going to win it. I mean, it was always like we're coming into, I think our last podcast, it was like we had our expectations and who we thought was going to win, and I really thought Macbeth was going to take it down again. I mean, it wasn't really, it didn't seem too favorable for him until the last two rounds. Him coming in really good round on 4 and then finishing it out to be ahead of everybody. You just got to get. I mean, it was actually 3. I think round 3 he really came out, and then 4 he solidified it, and then 5, yeah, it was just. I mean, birding everything all the way towards the end, pretty much all the way through 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 he parred. Or
Paul.
17, yeah.
Yeah, Paul birdied 13, 14, 15, 16, 17.
And then
Part 18 because he laid up because why
which it
wouldn't
was
you?
just like, and I wonder how much he regrets that. Like, do you think I'm sure there's some regret to being like, but I think he was like, as we said, he played everything the way he should have. So, and it also the other factors too. I mean, there were a lot of construction going on the course too. With, I think they got the bid 2 years ago for um, having the World Championship there, and then with pandemic and COVID hitting and stuff like that, yeah, it probably delayed that, and then it was just, yeah, it was just the bad timing for construction going on as well. But I don't know how much that played in a factor into them having their focus and whatnot, and every other thing that went with it too. Like with I guess the PDGA. There was a lot of things that were not up to par with them not running out what they needed to, and there's a few mistakes here and there, but these are all lessons learned, and I think next year we're going to come back even stronger, and we'll see exactly what happens.
Yeah, the crazy thing is like, yeah, this is Worlds, and this kind of seems like the climax of the season so far. Like the big, kind of like the Super Bowl of our sport. But this is the middle of the season. We still have the East Coast swing. We still have a ton of great golf to play,
Yeah,
and we can still see a lot more storylines come out of this. And uh, I think the thing that I kind of wanted to like, the thing I was thinking about is like Paul McBeth seems motivated before, right? Now to have his 6-time world championship get taken away by the man himself, JC, I feel like he's going to be even hungrier. So like, it's kind of like that Tom Brady mentality. I feel like now he's, you just made the beast even hungrier. Like you lit a
exactly.
fire under a guy who doesn't really need a fire to be lit because he's so good. But now you got a guy who already
He's
has
coming
probably
back with a vengeance.
he's coming back with a vengeance. So I wouldn't be surprised to see if Paul just like rattled off like all first places in all the next tournaments he plays, just to kind of like tell the
Solidify.
world and tell himself like I'm still the best. Like yes, he had a great shot, a nice field ace, but can he put together,
Well, I'm the
6 more
best.
tournaments in a row or what have you? So
Exactly. And yeah, we will see.
it's pretty crazy. In the comments on YouTube, I want to know where you were when you saw the holy shot land in the basket, because I was in a Sonics drive-through. Daniel was watching on his phone at a bar and was the only person that was screaming in the bar, it sounds like.
Yeah, pretty
Uh,
much.
so I feel like it's going to be one of those moments, kind of like when, I don't know, you see like big boxing fights happen, where were
Oh
you
yeah,
when?
no, I mean, yeah, you always get that huge roar of the camaraderie. But and it's exciting to see where it's going to go, man. Who knows? In the next couple of years, it's going to be like UFC 246. It's going to be like disc golf world championships. Hey, we're hosting it here at the bar if you guys want to come down and watch it. I mean, I'm sure there's places out here that do that, but I haven't seen any. So who knows?
We need to go to Bend, Oregon. Nate and
We'll go
Val
to Bevel.
probably won't be there,
Go to
but
Bevel.
yep. Go to Bevel
Very good
Brewery.
point.
They have disc golf on all the time.
I have
And
not been to Bevel, so that's my issue. But yeah, next year let's head on down to Bevel if we're not there.
yeah, if we're not there,
If we're
hopefully,
not in Utah,
hopefully we're there.
I don't
But
know where it'll be next year. Probably won't be Utah, but we'll
yeah,
see.
the thing I'm looking forward to is my friend Bryce, who I was watching it with. He's moving to Utah, and he's told me that the fort is only 40 minutes away from his house. So when
Oh,
I go
dang.
visit him, we're gonna go play the fort,
And you're
and
gonna see how hard it is.
I'm gonna see how hard it is. I think I want to do a YouTube video of how many times it takes to throw the holy shot into the basket because I feel
Holy.
like I could be out there all day. Like,
Did we elaborate on the holy shot?
what's that?
Did we elaborate why they call it the holy shot?
Well, I just saw that OTB posted it and they said the holy shot, which makes complete sense because everybody jokes that James Conrad is Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And I
You wanna
think I
talk about
mentioned,
Lord and Savior James Conrad?
yeah, I think I mentioned it to you before we started this podcast. When I was watching him like get ready for that shot, which uh Jeremy Colling said that he couldn't even see the basket. Like it was really like he was really well lit. Like the sun was setting, but James was like in golden light, like golden hour. And
So, it was more just a blind shot kinda throw in?
that's what Jeremy
That
Colling
sounds
was saying. He was like,
oh,
he can't even
really?
see the basket. He has to hold his disc up in front of his face in order to see where he's throwing because the sun was right in his eyes. But if you watch it, he like takes a step back, he puts his hands down and puts his head up and takes a deep breath in. And I don't know, when I saw that happen, I'm like, dude, this guy is like
He's getting in the
connecting
zone.
with a different power and
Yeah.
something
He's on
crazy is
another
going to
level.
happen.
I mean, it's just, it was just beyond my expectation of, like it's like seeing yeah, like, when we watch UFC a lot, it's just seeing, like, an ultimate knockout. It's like when, McGregor fought Jose Aldo, and he knocks him out within the first, it's the first right left hook he really throws, knocks him it's just like one of those moments that you're just stunned and you're just beyond disbelief.
For all the MMA fans out there, I think the best thing that I can think of as far as how it relates is uh
Czech Congo versus
what's
Pat Barry.
maybe.
Yeah.
I would say that's pretty funny. I would say it is Derek Lewis versus the guy that
Volkov?
just fought this like yeah, Volkov. It's
Mhm.
like the
That was
last
insane.
5
I
seconds
thought
of the
Volkov
round.
kicked his butt the whole time. Derek Lewis is such a beast, comes back and knocks him out, and then it was yeah, that was a really good one. I like that a
Knocks
lot.
him
But
out
I
with like
think
5 seconds left. It's like
yeah,
the only way Derek Lewis could win this fight is if he knocks him out, and it's like 10 seconds left in the fight, and he does it.
I
It's
had
like
money bet on
that's
that too, and I was like, "Money in my pocket." It was against my brother, and, yeah, just Derek Lewis, just there we go. Yeah, it was great.
yeah, that's pretty funny. Leave in the comments below what sports moment you feel like
It's
this
relatable.
this related to the most. I can't. I mean, Jeremy Colling said it's like bases loaded, bottom of the ninth, 2 strikes, like hitting a grand slam. I'm not sure if that's exactly the same. It's pretty close, I guess. Um,
Yeah, you tell us your analogies. Let us know what you think, 'cause,
yeah,
we can give you ours, but, we'd like to hear yours.
yeah. I want disc golf to like obviously be more well known and respected in the disc golf world, and it frustrates me that people compare us to cornhole and like darts and stuff. It's like most people that pick up a disc golf
I think
disc,
on
I
a
don't think
different
they
level.
can throw
Yeah.
over 250 feet.
And I feel like a lot of people that are getting started with disc golf, they do come back from athletic backgrounds, and they a lot of frustration comes with disc golf because nothing you can really relate. I mean, people go, you've thrown frisbees when you're a kid and stuff like that, but this is just a whole different dynamic. And sometimes that's a real big strive for people that are athletic, then they really want to become more into disc golf and like I really want to get better at this. And then sometimes it's just too much frustration, taking more people out than not. Then they're just into it or they're not into it. And but it's definitely I think it definitely gets it needs more. I think if they have cornhole on ESPN, they can have disc golf.
Oh yeah,
No
I don't.
disrespect towards cornhole, but, like, I feel like you're dealing with a little bit more, I'm not gonna say anything, but I think they should be showing disc golf.
I think yeah, like you said, I don't want to hit on cornhole, but I definitely think that disc golf is it should be more respected.
Mhm.
Obviously, I think the athletes are too good, the throws are too crazy. Like Garrett Gurthey throwing 687 feet in the air, like
And nobody's really recording that. I mean, they're not putting that, like, on live cover. Like, that should be on ESPN, like, "This guy threw in a 680." I mean, I just don't think people understand how good that is. Like, if you don't play
yeah,
disc golf, you're like, "Okay, he threw it 700 feet." I'm like, "I barely hit 400, and that guy's throwing" it's just it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
it's crazy. I think what needs to happen is like with other sports, I think people have tried their hand at it, and so they
Mhm.
understand how hard it is to hit a baseball, let alone a 100-mile-an-hour baseball. Like in high school, they were probably hitting against 65-mile-an-hour baseballs, and they couldn't do it. So like I think they understand like, wow, these guys throw 30-mile-an-hour faster than I was, or my the best pitcher on my team, and then they're also hitting home runs all the time. I couldn't even get on base, So they have like a frame of reference for themselves of like how hard it is to do this sport, and the people that I think dog on disc golf the most are people that have never thrown a disc golf disc or even tried to shape a line or do anything remotely, you know, uh,
Related to this stuff.
related to disc golf. And so they're just I don't want to say ignorant. They're just oblivious to the skills that it takes. And you see somebody throw a frisbee and you think, oh, I throw a frisbee with my friends in the park and we just have fun with it. And I played ultimate frisbee, at my college. It can't be that
Totally.
much
When you know
different.
the technicalities of like the woods and every other dynamic that goes with it, like whether it's the wind, whether it's a rainy day, whether the temperature is warm or cold. I mean, there's just so many different dynamics. But it's when you really find out like everything that goes into disc golf, I think that's what makes me appreciate it more because it's not just as simple as you're saying. Like I'm grabbing a disc and I'm throwing it in a basket. It's like there's the wind, there's the shot shape, there's the specific disc. There's just so many factors to it that it's like it's you versus the course and you knowing what the right shot is. And that's the most exciting part for me.
Yeah. So I think the people that are hating on disc golf and don't think it's a sport, because in the Twitter beef that I had, I'd never done Twitter, but I got so many people mention me about how disc golf's not a
I did
sport
see
and
that. That
how
was awesome, though.
cornhole is like more of a sport than disc golf, and like they should put more respect on darts because I said that they should respect disc golf more. I don't think those people have a frame of reference. And so if you're somebody that doesn't think disc golf is a sport and you're listening to this or somehow gets a hold of it, or maybe you have a buddy that doesn't know disc golf, I'll send you a disc golf disc and I want to see you throw it over 300 feet and just see how hard it is. And then think about doing that with a putter instead of a distance driver and throwing it into the basket for the
Right.
tie of a world championship in front of
Yeah.
1,400 fans.
You'll have a
I don't
much
know.
new appreciation.
Yeah. I'll send people discs if they want to try it. I mean, I had a friend that was a very good athlete. He had like offers to play corner in at I want to say Eastern Washington, which is a pretty good football program. So like an athletic dude, like 6'2", 220. I took him disc golfing and the guy couldn't understand how to athletically move to throw the disc. Like it just like it broke his mind on like how we were throwing so far. And so like I don't know. It just like disc golf just needs to be out there more. If you thinks you disc golf should be out there more too, you really need to support organizations like You Play Disc Golf, who is getting disc golf into the hands of schools and getting young kids acquainted with the sport, and so people can understand the greatness of what we just watched this last weekend,
Totally.
because it's one of the greatest sporting moments ever. And I follow a lot of sports, and uh, I can't think of a more clutch moment than what just happened. So
And I think when you catch the disc golf bug of just being outside, it's just a great way to get outdoors. It's just the community here. I mean, there's just so many factors of disc golf that you just fall in love with it. I mean, I can't tell you anything I found that I find more enjoyable than disc golf.
yeah, it's a lifelong sport. I mean, a lot of the sports I grew up playing, you can't do it unless you have like nine other friends or four other friends, and then another set of four friends or five friends across the to play against, or
Exactly.
you
You don't
know
have to have anybody with you. You just hit the course by yourself. You do your
just
thing. Have fun.
course by yourself. You can stay athletic. You can still be competitive in a bunch of different ways with the 40 and up divisions, 50 and up divisions. Like the people that are playing that are like in their 60s and 70s. And when I see videos of people in their hundreds on Facebook that Jomas shares, or, you see those every once in a while, I just look at it and I'm like, that's going to be me. Like, this is a sport that I can play for the next 50
I'm gonna
years.
be playing till I can't anymore.
Yeah. It's a, I don't know. In high school, they call them life sports, and they teach you about all these different sports that you can play that are like life sports that you can play forever. And disc golf is the only one that I've found that is something that you can actually play for your life without having to rely on other people to, make it happen for you. So,
There you go. Make sure to keep your body in tip-top shape because wear and
so
tear
yeah,
can
so
happen.
yeah, I'm feeling it already. Uh, So that was our little rant about disc golf. If you guys agree with us in the comments, let's hear it below. I think we're going to wrap up this episode. I think we just need to talk about the World Championships because I feel like that's all we need to talk about at this moment.
Yeah.
We'll be back probably next week.
Yeah.
Find something else to talk about. We got some more tournaments coming up, which is really awesome. And so yeah, anything else you want to say, Daniel?
No, I think you covered it, buddy. Exciting weekend. Glad to be here.
All right. Thanks for listening to episode 6 of the Chain Reaction podcast, and we'll catch you guys later.
Take it easy, everyone.